Kojo was a young farmer who lived in a small village surrounded by green hills and thick forest. His village was quiet and simple. The people there lived by farming, fishing, and making crafts to sell in nearby markets. Kojo lived in a small mud hut with his mother, Adwa, who was old and weak. She could no longer work in the fields, so Kojo did all the farming alone. Kojo's farm was small and dry. He planted yams, maize, and vegetables, but the soil was not rich, and the rains often came late. Every day, he worked hard from sunrise to sunset. He dug the hard ground with his hoe, planted seeds, and watered the crops when he could. Even with all his effort, his harvest was small. The food he grew was just enough for him and his mother to eat, with little left to sell. Some seasons were worse, and they had to go to bed hungry. Kojo's hut was old and broken. The roof was made of palm leaves, and when it rained, water dripped inside. The walls had cracks, and the floor was dusty. There was only one wooden bed, which his mother used. Kojo slept on a mat on the floor. Their pots and plates were few and worn, and their clothes were patched and faded. Life was hard, but Kojo loved his mother and wanted to take care of her. He dreamed of a better life where they could have enough food, good clothes, and a house that did not leak. At night, after a long day on the farm, Kojo sat outside their hut and looked at the stars. He prayed to the gods and spirits of the land for help. "Please," he would say, "give us a blessing. Help us so that my mother can rest and not worry anymore." But the days went by, and nothing changed. Kojo did not lose hope, though. He told himself that one day, things would get better. One morning, as the sun rose over the hills, Kojo went to the farm as usual. The soil was dry, and the crops looked weak. He picked up his hoe and started digging. He was tired and hungry, but he kept working because he knew he had no choice. As he dug, his hoe hit something hard. It made a loud clanging sound, not the usual sound of hitting stones or roots. Kojo stopped and looked at the ground. There was something shiny sticking out of the soil. At first, he thought it might be a piece of metal or a broken pot left behind by someone long ago. Curious, he got down on his knees and started digging with his hands. He was careful not to damage whatever it was. As he dug, more of the shiny object appeared. It was round and smooth, and it glittered in the sunlight. Kojo's heart began to beat fast. What could it be? Was it something valuable? He kept digging until he pulled it out of the ground. When he held it in his hands, he realized it was a calabash, but not an ordinary one. This calabash was golden. The calabash was beautiful. Its surface was shiny and smooth, and it felt warm in his hands, almost as if it were alive. It was covered with carvings of animals, plants, and strange patterns. The carvings seemed to move slightly when Kojo looked closely, as if they were alive too. He had never seen anything like it before. It looked magical, like something from the stories his mother used to tell him when he was a child. Kojo stood there, holding the golden calabash, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. He wondered where it had come from and why it was buried in his farm. Was it a gift from the gods? Or was it left by an ancestor? He thought about the stories he had heard about magical objects and treasures. Some brought blessings, but others brought curses. He wasn't sure what to think. After a while, Kojo decided to take the calabash home and show it to his mother. He wrapped it in a piece of cloth and carried it carefully, looking around to make sure no one saw him. The village was quiet that morning, and most people were still in their homes. Kojo walked quickly, his heart racing with excitement and curiosity. When he reached the hut, his mother was sitting outside on a wooden stool, peeling cassava. She looked up and saw Kojo's excited face. "What is it, my son?" she asked. Kojo unwrapped the cloth and showed her the golden calabash. Adwa's eyes widened in shock. She put down the cassava and reached out to touch the calabash. Her hands trembled as she ran her fingers over the smooth surface and the moving carvings. "Kojo, where did you find this?" she asked, her voice low and serious. I found it on the farm, Kojo replied. It was buried in the soil. What do you think it is, mother? Adwa shook her head slowly. This is no ordinary calabash, she said. Such things do not belong to humans. They belong to the spirits or the gods. You must be careful with it. Sometimes, treasures like this bring blessings, but other times, they bring great trouble. Kojo listened to his mother's words, but he couldn't help feeling hopeful. Maybe this calabash was the answer to his prayers. Maybe it would change their lives for the better. He decided to keep it and see what would happen. That night, Kojo placed the golden calabash on their small wooden table. He looked at it one more time before going to bed. It seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, and the carvings shimmered. Kojo lay on his mat, thinking about the calabash and dreaming of a life without hunger and hardship. For the first time in a long time, he felt a spark of hope. The next morning, the sun rose over the hills, casting golden light on the small village. Birds chirped in the trees, and the air was cool and fresh. Kojo woke up early, feeling a strange energy he could not explain. He sat on his mat for a moment, staring at the golden calabash on the wooden table. Its glow had dimmed, but the carvings still shimmered faintly, as if they were alive. His mother, Adwa, was already awake. She had lit a small fire outside the hut and was boiling water for porridge. She looked at Kojo with concern as he stepped outside. Kojo, have you thought about what I said last night? She asked. Her voice was gentle but firm. This calabash might not be what it seems. Sometimes, treasures bring trouble. Kojo nodded. I understand, mother. But what if this is a blessing? We have struggled for so long. Maybe the gods have heard our prayers. Adwa sighed and stirred the pot of porridge. The gods do not give without reason, my son. If this is their gift, we must use it wisely. Promise me you will be careful. Kojo promised, though he was not sure what careful meant in this situation. He finished his porridge quickly, eager to see if the calabash would do anything unusual. He had never felt so curious or hopeful before. He placed the calabash back on the table and sat next to it. Watching it closely as if it might move or speak, hours passed, and nothing happened. Kojo felt disappointed. Maybe his mother was right, and it was just a strange object with no power. He decided to leave it alone and go to the farm. There was work to do, and the crops would not tend themselves. He picked up his hoe and headed out, leaving the calabash behind. When Kojo returned in the evening, he opened the door to the hut and froze. His eyes widened as he stepped inside. The hut looked different. The cracks in the walls were gone, and the roof no longer leaked. The wooden table was polished and sturdy, and the pots and plates that had been old and worn were now shiny and new. Even the mat he slept on had been replaced with a soft, colorful one. Kojo's heart raced. He called out to his mother, who came inside carrying a bundle of firewood. She stopped in her tracks and gasped, "What happened here?" She asked, looking around in disbelief. Kojo pointed at the calabash. "It must be the calabash, mother. Nothing else could have done this." Adwa's face was a mix of wonder and fear. She approached the calabash slowly and touched its smooth surface. It felt warm under her fingers, just as Kojo had described. "This is the work of spirits," she whispered. "But we must not be greedy. Remember what I said, Kojo. We must be cautious." Kojo nodded, though deep inside, excitement bubbled up. If the calabash could fix their hut and replace their old belongings, what else could it do? He decided not to think too much about it for now. He would watch and wait, as his mother had advised. That night, Kojo and Adwa sat together, eating a meal of yam and soup. The food tasted better than usual, and Kojo wondered if the calabash had somehow improved it. He looked at his mother, who seemed more relaxed than she had in years. For the first time in a long time, There was no worry in her eyes. Before going to bed, Kojo placed the calabash in the center of the table and whispered a small prayer of thanks. He lay down on his new mat, feeling a strange mix of joy and unease. Was this truly a blessing, or was there something more to the calabash that he didn't understand? He drifted off to sleep with these thoughts in his mind. The next morning, Kojo woke up to another surprise. The hut was filled with the smell of fresh bread and roasted meat. On the table, there was a pile of food that hadn't been there the night before. There were also a few gold coins scattered near the calabash. Kojo rubbed his eyes, thinking he was dreaming, but the sight did not change. He called out to his mother, who came running in from outside. "Kojo, what is this?" Adwa asked, staring at the table. "It's the calabash again," Kojo said, his voice trembling with excitement. "It must have given us these things." Adwa picked up one of the gold coins and examined it. It was heavy and real. She looked at Kojo with a serious expression. "This is a great gift, but remember, my son, we must not ask for too much. Take only what we need." Kojo nodded, though his mind was already racing. If the calabash could provide food and gold, it could change their lives forever. They would never have to worry about hunger or poverty again. The possibilities seemed endless, but as Kojo looked at the calabash, he noticed something strange. There were small letters carved into the base that he hadn't seen before. He leaned closer to read them, but the writing was in a language he didn't understand. The letters seemed to glow faintly, and for a moment, Kojo felt uneasy. Was the calabash trying to tell him something? He decided not to mention the writing to his mother. He didn't want to worry her. As the days passed, the calabash continued to provide. Every morning, Kojo and Adwa found food, coins, and other gifts in their hut. Kojo's farm began to flourish as well. The crops grew taller and greener, as if the soil itself had been blessed. The villagers started to notice the changes and whispered among themselves. Some said Kojo was lucky, while others were suspicious. Despite his mother's warnings, Kojo couldn't help feeling proud. For the first time in his life, he felt like someone important. He told himself that he deserved this blessing after all the hard work and suffering he had endured. But deep inside, he also felt a growing curiosity about the calabash. What was its true power? And why had it come to him? Kojo's life began to change in ways he had never imagined. The golden calabash continued to provide each day, filling his hut with more food, gold coins, and other gifts. His once struggling farm was now thriving, with yams and maize growing in abundance. Even the vegetables looked greener and fresher than those of his neighbors. Kojo's heart swelled with pride every time he looked at his flourishing fields and the pile of gold coins hidden beneath his bed. However, the villagers started to notice the changes. Kojo, who had always been one of the poorest farmers, now seemed to live a life of comfort. His hut, which used to be broken and leaking, now stood out with its sturdy roof and painted walls. People whispered about him in the marketplace, their voices low but filled with curiosity. How did Kojo become so wealthy so quickly? One man asked as he inspected a basket of yams. "I heard he found something in his fields," another woman replied. "A treasure of some kind. But who knows? Maybe he's made a deal with the spirits." The whispers grew louder each day, and soon, Kojo found himself the center of attention. Some villagers came to him with gifts, hoping to earn his favor. Others watched him with suspicion, their eyes sharp and accusing. Even his closest friends began to treat him differently. Kojo could feel the weight of their stares whenever he walked through the village. One evening, as Kojo returned from the fields, he found a group of children playing near his hut. They were laughing and running around, but when they saw him, they froze. One of the older boys stepped forward, his face curious and bold. "Kojo, is it true?" the boy asked. "Did you find a treasure?" Kojo hesitated. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want the truth to spread. "What treasure?" he said, forcing a laugh. I've just been working hard on my farm. The gods have blessed my crops this year. The boy frowned but said nothing more. The children ran off, their laughter fading into the evening air. Kojo sighed and entered his hut, where his mother was waiting for him. Adwa looked worried. Kojo, the villagers are talking. They say you have found something magical. It won't be long before they come asking questions. Kojo sat down beside her. I'll tell them it's just hard work, mother. They don't need to know about the calabash. Adwa shook her head. Secrets are heavy, my son. And this one? This one could bring trouble. You must be careful. Kojo nodded, but he couldn't help feeling frustrated. Why couldn't the villagers just leave him alone? He had spent years struggling and working tirelessly. Didn't he deserve a little happiness? He decided to push the thoughts aside and focus on the gifts the calabash had brought him. The next morning, Kojo woke up to another surprise. Beside the usual pile of food and coins, there was a small bundle wrapped in colorful cloth. Curious, he unwrapped it and found a necklace made of shiny black beads. It was simple but beautiful, and Kojo couldn't help but smile. He showed it to his mother, who examined it carefully. This is not ordinary, Adwa said, her voice low. The spirits must be pleased with you to give such a gift. But remember, Kojo, these blessings come with responsibility. Do not let greed take over your heart. Kojo nodded, but deep inside, a small part of him began to wonder. If the calabash could give him necklaces and gold coins, what else could it provide? The thought lingered in his mind as he went about his day. As the weeks passed, Kojo's wealth continued to grow. He began to help the villagers in small ways, giving them food or lending them coins when they were in need. At first, they were grateful, praising him for his generosity. But over time, their gratitude turned into dependence. People came to him almost daily, asking for help with their problems. Kojo, my roof is leaking. Can you lend me some coins to fix it? Kojo, my children are hungry. Could you spare some yams? Kojo, I need new tools for my farm. Could you help me buy them? Kojo tried to help as much as he could, but the constant requests began to wear him down. He started to feel like he was being used. Some villagers even began to gossip behind his back, accusing him of being stingy when he couldn't meet their demands. He has so much, one woman whispered. Why doesn't he share more? Maybe he's hiding something, another man said. Nobody gets that rich without a secret. The whispers grew louder, and Kojo felt the pressure building. He started to avoid the marketplace, choosing instead to spend his time alone in the fields or at home. Even his mother noticed the change in him. Kojo, you seem troubled, Adwa said one evening as they sat by the fire. What is on your mind? Kojo shook his head. It's nothing, mother. Just the villagers. They don't understand. Adwa placed a hand on his shoulder. Secrets have a way of growing, my son. If you are not careful, they will consume you. Perhaps it is time to think about what this calabash truly means. Is it a blessing, or is it something else? Kojo didn't answer. He couldn't. Deep inside, he knew his mother was right. The calabash had brought him wealth and comfort, but it had also brought suspicion and isolation. He began to wonder if the whispers of the villagers were more than just rumors. What if the calabash's gift came with a price he had yet to pay? Kojo's curiosity about the golden calabash grew stronger each day. The engraved writing at its base, with its cryptic message, often echoed in his mind, take only what you need. Never look inside. The words were clear, but they left an unsettling sense of mystery that Kojo could not shake. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the village settled into the stillness of night, Kojo sat alone in his hut. His mother, Adwa, had gone to visit a neighbor, leaving him to his thoughts. The flickering light from the small oil lamp cast dancing shadows on the walls, and the golden calabash gleamed softly on the table. Kojo reached out and ran his fingers over the smooth surface. The intricate carvings seemed to shimmer under his touch, as if they were alive. He wondered again about the meaning of the warning. Why couldn't he look inside? What could possibly be hidden within? As the question swirled in his mind, Kojo's thoughts were interrupted by a soft sound. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable, a whisper. He froze, his heart racing. The sound seemed to come from the calabash itself. Kojo, his name was carried on the faint whisper, barely louder than a breath. He stared at the calabash, his pulse quickening. Who's there? He asked, his voice trembling. The whisper came again, this time a little louder. Kojo, do you truly know what you possess? Kojo's hands shook as he gripped the edge of the table. He wanted to flee, but his curiosity anchored him in place. What are you? He managed to say. Are you? Are you the spirit of the calabash? The voice didn't answer his question directly. Instead, it said, blessings can become curses, Kojo. You have taken much. Have you not wondered why you were chosen? Kojo's mind raced. Chosen? He hadn't thought about it that way. To him, the calabash had simply been a stroke of luck, an answer to years of hardship. But now, he felt a gnawing unease. I didn't ask for this, he said, his voice shaking. I've only taken what you've given. The whisper grew colder, sharper. Take only what you need, it said. Have you obeyed this rule? Kojo's chest tightened. He thought about the gold coins hidden under his bed, the extra food stored away in clay pots, and the gifts he had given to others to win their admiration. Was that more than he needed? He wasn't sure anymore. I have shared my blessings with others, he said defensively. I've helped my village. The voice responded with a chilling laugh. You share to feed your pride, not out of kindness. You crave their praise, their envy. The calabash sees your heart, Kojo. Kojo's face burned with shame. He wanted to argue, to deny the voice's accusations, but deep down, he knew there was truth in its words. As the whisper faded, Kojo sat in silence, staring at the golden calabash. For the first time, he felt its weight not as a gift but as a burden. He thought of his mother's warnings, her constant reminders that the blessings of the gods often came with conditions. Adwa returned later that night, her face lined with concern. She found Kojo sitting by the table, the lamp nearly burned out. Kojo, what is wrong? She asked, setting down a basket of herbs she had brought from the neighbor. He hesitated, then told her everything, the whispers, the voice, and the accusations it had made. Adwa listened quietly, her expression growing more serious with every word. When he finished, she placed a hand on his arm. My son, this is no ordinary calabash. It is testing you. The gods do not give freely, they watch to see how you will use their gifts. Perhaps the voice speaks the truth. Have you taken more than you need? Kojo lowered his head. I don't know, mother. I only wanted to escape poverty. Is that so wrong? Adwa sighed. Wanting a better life is not wrong, but greed can blind even the purest heart. You must remember the rule. Take only what you need, and nothing more. Kojo nodded, though doubt still clouded his mind. He promised himself that he would be more careful, that he would only take what was necessary. But the whisper's words lingered, haunting him. The following days were quiet. Kojo tried to keep his promise, taking only small amounts from the calabash. He gave away less and avoided the villagers' questions, choosing to stay on his farm. But despite his efforts, he couldn't shake the feeling that the calabash was watching him, judging his every move. One night, as Kojo lay in bed, he heard the whisper again. This time, it was louder, more insistent. Kojo, the rule has been broken. The price must be paid. He sat up, his heart pounding. No. I've taken less. I've been careful. The voice didn't respond. Instead, the golden calabash began to glow faintly, its carvings shimmering with an eerie light. Kojo stared at it, fear gripping him. "Mother." He called out, his voice trembling. "Come quickly." Adwa rushed into the room, her eyes widening at the sight of the glowing calabash. She pulled Kojo close, her grip firm. "Kojo, do not touch it," she said. "Whatever is happening, you must let it play out. The gods are speaking." The glow faded after a moment, and the calabash returned to its normal state. But Kojo's fear remained. He couldn't sleep that night, his mind racing with thoughts of what the voice had meant by the price. As dawn broke, Kojo made a decision. He would go to the village elder, a wise man named Nana Obairi, known for his knowledge of spiritual matters. If anyone could help him understand the calabash's warning, it was Nana. Kojo's journey to the elder's hut was filled with apprehension. The morning air was cool, but his palms were damp with sweat. When he arrived, he found Nana sitting under a baobab tree, weaving a basket. The elder looked up and smiled gently. "Oh, Kojo. What brings you here so early?" Kojo explained everything, from the moment he had found the calabash to the recent events. Nana listened carefully, his expression growing grave. When Kojo finished, the elder spoke. "The calabash is no ordinary object, my son. It is a test, given by forces beyond our understanding. The rule is simple, but its purpose is profound. It is not about what you take but about who you become." Kojo frowned. "What do you mean, Nana?" Nana Obari leaned forward, his eyes piercing. "The calabash has seen your heart, Kojo. If you allow greed to take root, it will destroy you. You must find balance, or the price will be more than you can bear." Kojo left the elder's hut with a heavy heart. The warning was clear, but the path forward seemed uncertain. Could he truly resist the lure of the calabash's gifts? And what would happen if he failed? After his visit to Nana Obairi, Kojo returned to his hut with a mix of hope and trepidation. The elder's words lingered in his mind, reminding him that the golden calabash was more than just a miraculous treasure, it was a test of his character. But even with this wisdom, resisting temptation was easier said than done. The next morning, Kojo awoke to the familiar glow of the calabash. It sat on the wooden table, radiating an inviting warmth. As he approached, he found more gold coins, fresh fruits, and a sack of fine grains waiting for him. For a moment, he felt a rush of gratitude. This abundance meant he could feed his mother, repair their roof, and perhaps even help a few villagers in need. But as he gathered the gifts, another thought crept into his mind. What if I ask for more? What harm could it do? The warning etched into the calabash still haunted him. Take only what you need. Never look inside. But Kojo couldn't help wondering about the second part of the message. Why was he forbidden from looking inside? What secrets did the calabash hold? As days turned into weeks, Kojo's life improved drastically. His once barren fields now produced yams and maize so plentiful that he could sell the surplus at the market. His neighbors marveled at his newfound prosperity, and some even envied him. But Kojo's satisfaction was short-lived. No matter how much the calabash provided, it never felt like enough. "If only it could give me land," he muttered one day as he tilled the soil. "Or perhaps a herd of cattle. Then I could truly be a great man in the village." His mother, Adwa, overheard him and frowned. "Kojo, have you forgotten what the elder said? The calabash gives what you need, not what you desire. Be careful, my son. Greed is a fire that consumes everything in its path." Kojo nodded, but he felt a spark of irritation. He had worked tirelessly his whole life, enduring hardship and hunger. Why shouldn't he dream of more? Was it so wrong to want a better life? One stormy night, as rain pounded on the roof and wind howled through the cracks in the walls, Kojo sat alone in his hut. Adwa had gone to sleep, leaving him with his thoughts. The calabash sat on the table, its carvings glowing faintly in the dim light of the oil lamp. Kojo stared at it, his mind racing. The elder's warning, his mother's advice, and the Calabash's message all swirled in his head. Yet, one question burned brighter than the rest: what is inside the calabash? He reached out and traced the carvings with his fingers. The patterns seemed to shift under his touch, as if alive. The urge to lift the lid grew stronger with each passing moment. What if there was something extraordinary inside? A treasure greater than gold. A power beyond imagination. Kojo's hands trembled as he gripped the calabash. He lifted it slightly, testing its weight. It felt warm, almost alive, and he could hear a faint hum emanating from within. His heart raced as he considered his next move. Suddenly, Adua's voice broke through his thoughts. "Kojo, what are you doing?" Startled, he nearly dropped the calabash. He turned to see his mother standing in the doorway, her expression a mix of fear and disappointment. "I was just..." he stammered, setting the calabash back on the table. "I wasn't going to open it." Adua stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. "My son, the calabash has already given us more than we ever dreamed. Do not let your curiosity lead to your downfall. The gods have set their rules for a reason." Kojo nodded reluctantly, but the desire to uncover the calabash's secrets refused to fade. That night, as he lay in bed, the whisper returned, "Kojo, the truth is within your grasp. Do you not wish to know your destiny?" The whisper continued to torment Kojo over the following days. No matter how hard he tried to focus on his work, the voice lingered in his mind, urging him to defy the rules. Even his mother's presence couldn't ease his turmoil. One evening, Kojo decided he could endure it no longer. He would seek answers, no matter the cost. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed someone who understood the calabash's power, someone who could help him unlock its secrets without angering the gods. He thought of Nana Obari. The elder had warned him before, but perhaps he held more knowledge than he had shared. Kojo resolved to visit him again, hoping for guidance. As the sun set, Kojo prepared for his journey. He wrapped the calabash in a cloth and placed it carefully in a basket. Adua watched him with concern but said nothing, sensing that her son's mind was made up. "Be careful, Kojo," she said softly as he stepped out into the night. "Remember, the gods are always watching." Kojo nodded but didn't respond. His thoughts were consumed by the calabash and the secrets it held. As he walked toward the elder's hut, the whisper grew louder, filling his ears with promises of power and glory. "You are destined for greatness, Kojo," the voice said. "Do not let fear hold you back." But as Kojo approached the elder's home, a new feeling began to stir within him, a sense of dread. The path he had chosen was dangerous, and he knew there would be no turning back. Kojo arrived at Nana Obari's hut under the cover of darkness. The elder's home was modest, with walls made of dried mud and a thatched roof that seemed to blend into the surrounding forest. A faint light flickered from within, and the air was thick with the scent of herbs and burning wood. Kojo hesitated at the door, clutching the basket containing the golden calabash. His heart pounded in his chest as he wondered if this visit would bring the answers he sought or lead him deeper into danger. "Enter," a deep voice called from inside, as though the elder had sensed Kojo's presence before he knocked. Kojo pushed the door open and stepped into the hut. Nana Obari sat cross-legged on a woven mat, his eyes closed as if in meditation. Shelves lined the walls, filled with jars of dried roots, powders, and mysterious trinkets. A single oil lamp cast long shadows across the room, making the elder's figure appear larger than life. "You have come again, Kojo," the elder said without opening his eyes. "I see the calabash has brought you both fortune and unrest." Kojo placed the basket carefully on the floor and knelt before Nana Obari. "Wise one, I need your help. The calabash has given me many blessings, but I fear it holds secrets I do not understand. The whispers. They torment me, urging me to break the rules." The elder opened his eyes, their piercing gaze seeming to look straight into Kojo's soul. "What you hold is no ordinary object. It is a vessel of power, bound by laws that even the gods respect. To defy those laws is to invite ruin. Kojo swallowed hard. But why, elder? Why does the calabash forbid me from looking inside? What lies within it? Nana Obari sighed deeply and motioned for Kojo to sit. You are not the first to ask these questions, nor will you be the last. The calabash tests the heart of those it chooses. Its gifts are not merely rewards but a mirror, reflecting your true self. The rule exists to protect you, Kojo. What lies within is not for mortal eyes. Seeing Kojo's confusion, Nana Obari began to recount an old tale. Many years ago, there was a man named Agumen who, like you, stumbled upon the golden calabash. At first, he was content with the blessings it provided. But greed and curiosity consumed him, and he too defied the rule. When he opened the calabash, he unleashed a force so terrible that it destroyed everything he held dear. Kojo leaned forward, hanging on the elder's every word. What did he see inside? The elder's face grew solemn. No one knows. Agumen's village was swallowed by darkness, leaving nothing but whispers of his folly. The calabash vanished for generations, waiting for another to find it. You see, Kojo, the calabash does not merely grant blessings. It watches, it waits, and it tests. Those who fail pay the ultimate price. Kojo felt a chill run down his spine. But what if I'm strong enough? What if I can master its power? Nana Obari shook his head. Pride blinds even the wisest of men. The calabash has already begun to whisper to you, planting seeds of doubt and desire. If you cannot resist its lure, how can you hope to control what lies within? Kojo sat in silence, torn between fear and curiosity. He wanted to believe the elder's warnings, but the whispers in his mind were growing louder. More insistent, what should I do, elder? He asked finally. How can I silence the whispers? Nana Obari reached for a small pouch and handed it to Kojo. Take this powder and sprinkle it around the calabash each night. It will create a barrier to protect you from its influence. But remember, Kojo, the true battle lies within your heart. The calabash cannot tempt a man who is content with what he has. Kojo accepted the pouch with trembling hands. Thank you, wise one. I will try to follow your advice. The elder nodded. Go now, and remember, the calabash is both a gift and a test. Only those who respect its rules can hope to prosper. Kojo returned home feeling a mixture of relief and unease. He followed the elder's instructions, sprinkling the powder around the calabash before placing it back on the wooden table. That night, the whispers were quieter, but they did not disappear entirely. As the days passed, Kojo's life settled into a fragile routine. The calabash continued to provide, and he tried to focus on the blessings it brought rather than the mysteries it concealed. Yet, deep in his heart, the curiosity remained, a persistent ember that refused to be extinguished. Adwa noticed the change in her son. He seemed calmer, but she could sense the struggle beneath his surface. Kojo, she said one evening, you must not let the calabash consume you. Remember, we were happy with little before it came into our lives. We can be happy again without it. Kojo forced a smile. I know, mother. I am trying. But even as he spoke the words, he felt the ember of temptation flare. He couldn't shake the feeling that the calabash held the key to something greater, something he was destined to discover. One night, as Kojo lay in bed, the whisper returned, louder and more persuasive than ever. Kojo, you are chosen. Why do you fear your destiny? Open the calabash and claim your true power. He sat up, drenched in sweat. The powder Nana Obari had given him seemed to have lost its effectiveness. The whispers were growing stronger, and Kojo's resolve was weakening. What if the elder is wrong? He thought. What if opening the calabash is the only way to understand its power? I cannot live in fear forever. He glanced at the calabash, its carvings glowing faintly in the darkness. The urge to leave the lead was almost unbearable. But he forced himself to lie back down, clutching his blanket as though it could shield him from the temptation. "Not tonight," he whispered to himself. "I will decide tomorrow." But deep down, Kojo knew that his struggle was far from over. The calabash had planted a seed of doubt. And it was only a matter of time before it bore fruit.